Tuesday, August 30th. My name is Darren Gertis. I do daily updates on what's going on in Ukraine. And as I was going through today's articles, looking at what has happened as the Kherson offensive has started, it struck me Ukraine is actually fighting the war of the future. And I'm going to lay out my case systematically here, but just stay with me because this is really, really interesting. So I'm starting here with the Battle of Waterloo, which doesn't look like it has anything to do with Ukraine, but look at how people are assembled in the painting. Obviously, it looked different in real life, but they're assembled in these large configurations, masking fire, shooting at each other. And then that's displaced 100 years later by trench warfare in World War I, right? So they dug into the ground and they were fighting differently. So they're going to continue to innovate and do different things. And trench warfare was really a significant difference, and it was deadlier, right? Then trench warfare, the tank displaces trench warfare. Tanks were designed to go over trenches and just plow right on through. And Hitler, to his credit, although I don't want to credit Hitler with anything, Hitler masterfully used the tank to have a blitzkrieg, right? So it changed warfare yet again. Well, I think you see a rotation in the way the warfare is done when you get through Vietnam and Afghanistan with the Russians, and then Afghanistan and Iraq with the Americans, and then what you're seeing in Ukraine is just fascinatingly different. So I showed this article a couple of days ago, and I'm showing it again in case you missed it. If you want to see these daily updates, by the way, please subscribe. Look up Professor Gertis and daily updates. Professor Gerdes and daily updates, and you'll see all of them. How Ukraine turned cheap tablets into lethal weapons. I thought this was fascinating. $150 tablets. These guys can, just carry these with them. They give them the coordinates, and artillery fire goes right out. They can measure distance, put coordinates, calculate the fire. They can deal with weather patterns, these Android tablets that cost $150 or more are making the battlefield very, very deadly for the Russians. Now, that goes into today. Black Hornets, the micro drones sent into the Ukrainian battlefields. The Brits and the Norwegians have created these. Look at this thing. I mean, you kind of wear it on your body, okay? Look at just how small this is. You send the drone up and you just have this little tablet with you in front of you. Okay, you literally wear it, and then you just coordinate where the drone goes so that you can spot where it is. They can coordinate, and bam. This is the Prime Minister of Norway, I guess it is, using it. Okay, just to show how it can be done. And it's going to have some significant effects. So drones on the battlefield are really quite a different. These micro drones are quite an innovation in the battlefield. Okay, so the Ukrainians are pressing this offensive in the south. They are moving down, and Kherson is really a very symbolic thing. It was captured early on by the Russians, and taking Kherson back is going to be very, very significant. Along the way, the Russians are claiming that they've destroyed over 1,200 Ukrainian military men in one day. Now, I don't believe Pravda. This article's in Pravda. I'll show you a similar one in RT, because they lie about stuff all the time, and they don't really back up their things with facts and sources and things along these lines. Russian troops destroyed more than 1,200 militants in one day, said the defense ministry. The Russian troops have destroyed 48 tanks, 46 infantry fighting vehicles, 37 armored combat vehicles, 8 pickup trucks with large caliber machine guns, 1,200 Ukrainian servicemen. They also liquidated more than 100 militants of the Kraken nationalist formation. They love talking about the new bad guys. The new really, really, really bad guys are the Kraken formation. I think they've claimed to kill more Krakens than there are actually Krakens. But we'll set that aside. So they also say the same thing in Russia releases new estimate of Ukrainian offensive losses. They say the same thing in Russia Today. This is like Russian state-sponsored propaganda news information, and it will be literally cut and paste and carried by Islamic or Indian or Asian newspapers around the world that are lazy, and that's where they get the propaganda value. Okay, now at the same time, there might be a little bit of truth to what they say in things. So for example, they have said that they have destroyed HIMARS again and again. Like, in fact, there was I was reading one article that an American official was saying they claim to have destroyed more HIMARS than we actually provided. Well, one of the reasons might be because replicas of U.S. supplied rocket launcher systems drew at least 10 Russian caliber cruise missiles. So the Ukrainians are using these wooden decoys into getting Russia to waste its missiles on basically wood that looks like this. Russia's using these, or Ukraine's using these decoys, and when a drone goes over and sees it on the battlefield, it's a VIP target. It is like, yes, let's kill this thing, and so they spend their time on that. Here's the official. They claim to have hit more HIMARS than we have sent. One U.S. diplomat spoke on a condition of anonymity. So yeah, so this is also, but now this isn't just the war of the future. The drone part is the war of the future. But this just goes right back to what Patton did in World War II. In World War II, Patton was actually just before D-Day sent to a different place on the coast, which looked like the closest place to invade Europe, so that the Germans would fortify there. And he had like these rubber tanks driving around. They were pumping out tank noise with speakers, and so yeah, I mean, it's the same thing, except that drones have changed the battlefield significantly. Okay, different story. Zelensky meets with the IAEA director in Kyiv, and they're saying, look, we want specialists like to actually handle the nuclear power plant. We want the Russians out. Just declare it a safe space, because this could be bad for everybody. And it can be. It could be very bad for all of Eastern and even Western Europe and Russia. So yeah, all bad. Now, at the same time, Russia shelves the corridor of the IAEA mission, the people trying to get to it, the specialists to get there, says the Ukrainians. Meanwhile, the Russians, who often accuse their enemies of doing the things that they do, I don't know if this is the case right now, but this is what they often do. Ukrainian forces are shelling a route that the IAEA inspection mission could take to reach Zaporizhia. Really? I mean, but they do this so much that I just disbelieve what the Russians say at this point, because their propaganda has had a backfiring effect, at least on me, in making me just disbelieve anything they say unless it's really, really proven. And then finally, if they're saying we really want to, have these inspectors in, which they've said, they could make it happen immediately. Like, Ukraine wants to open it up. The Russians say they want to open it up, but they still haven't done anything about Olvinka, right? Remember the POWs that were killed a month ago? They still have not allowed the International Red Cross or the UN or Doctors Without Borders or whoever else to come in. They still have not allowed that to happen. So if they wanted it to happen, they could make it happen, which is why I disbelieve that they actually want to make it happen. Okay, normally I look at RT as the last article in these and kind of like, really, Russia, that's what you're doing? But here it's not for a really Russia. It's more of a, isn't that interesting? I wonder how the Russians really think about Gorbachev. I look at Gorbachev and I think, man, he had a hard run. It's like Mandela's counterpart in South Africa, who is kind of known as presiding over the death of what was. Same thing with Gorbachev, and he just died today, and he will be remembered as the father of perestroika, but also for providing over the fall of the Soviet Union. Like, no, he opened up the Soviet Union. He let the Soviet Union go so that Russia could join the rest of the world, and we were hoping that Russia would join the rest of the world peacefully as a democracy, and it went south. But look at what they say about him. A divisive figure. Supporters credit him with having played a key part in bringing about the end of the Cold War, while opponents accuse him of aiding in the fall of the Soviet Union and a major loss to Moscow's prestige and global influence. Like, that's a really interesting perspective that they would be talking about it like that. As I went through the article, I was just thinking, like, wow, they're really, it's almost like they want the former Soviet Union back. And I think that's kind of what the Russian nationalism is doing. That's what it's like. They want to deculturalize Ukrainians and make them Russian and build a bigger empire. And you can see that reflected here. The partial democratization of Soviet society under Gorbachev led to a surge in nationalist and anti-Russian sentiment in most of the 15 Soviet republics. That's because you were dominating them by force. You weren't saying, hey, we're all buddies. You were running over Lithuania and running over Poland. And so when they rose up, when the people, so I've been to Lithuania and I talked to a member of parliament who was telling me that they were like the Soviets, they signed a thing saying like we're leaving the Soviet Union and the Soviets sent tanks and they were inside the Samos, that's their parliament building, unscrewing the railings on the stairwell so that they have something in their hands to be able to fight with. I mean, that's what this was like. And the people of Lithuania came out and circled the linked arms and circled the parliament building in rings, like 6, 10 people deep. And the Soviets had a choice. Did we fire and cause an international incident, or do they back off? And they backed off. And Lithuania had its freedom. This is why Lithuania is so in Ukraine's corner. This is why Poland's there too, because they understand what the Soviets were like and they don't want to go back to that again. Okay, at any rate, my whole premise here was that we're fighting the war of the future, and I was trying to paint a picture of what has changed. And at the end here, I want to show you that not a lot has changed in Russia in the mindset. They kind of want to go back to what it was in the former Soviet Union. Okay, thank you for your time. I hope this helps you understand what's going on in Ukraine, and I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for caring enough to listen to this.